And I want to thank Trudy again for suggesting this topic. I'm sure a lot of people are curious about this. We're going to talk about the proposition for new Pacifica bylaws, and with Jan Goodman, who's head of New Day Pacifica Campaign. And I'm going to give it to Ursula, who will give her a proper, thorough introduction.
Okay, and Stephanie, can you set the Zoom so that the speaker fills the whole frame?
So the speaker fills the whole frame. There we
Yeah.
go. And we are recording today, just so everyone's aware. Okay.
Okay. Are you able to do that where you are? Here, I'll do it. Okay.
I think we each do it for our own screen.
Oh, so you should do it where you're doing it, right? Oh, so when you're recording, you get that.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. All right. Okay, so Jan Goodman is an attorney. She's a member of KPFK local station board and was a member of the Pacifica National Board for 5 years. I've known Jan for quite a while because I've stayed at her house a few times during the Pacifica struggle back at the beginning of the decade or the beginning of the century, and in Santa Monica. She has been chair or president of the Southern California chapter of Americans for Democratic Action, the Paul Robeson Community Center in South Los Angeles, Sunset Hall Retirement Home, the National Lawyers Guild, the Committee to Strengthen KPFK, and the Shalom Community. She has also been a member of Americans for Peace Now and numerous other peace and community groups. Jan and her husband, Jerry, have sometimes been called Solanistas, and I can attest to that, as they contribute to the political and social conversation in the progressive community and support local and national organizations, candidates, and causes by hosting lively salons, political and cultural events, and book signings, discussions in their home on a regular basis. And this was definitely true during the Pacifica struggle, and had some great moments there. Some of their guests have included Congresswoman Barbara Lee and Congressman Alan Grayson and Dennis Kucinich. Oh, Dennis Kucinich, remember him? And Cuban Grammy winner Cucho Valdez, writer Gore Vidal, Tom Hayden, Professor Gerald Horn, KPFK hosts Lila Garrett and Earl Ofari Hutchinson, and many others. Jan is vice chair of the New Day Pacifica Campaign. And if the New Day Pacifica bylaws and election of officers passes, she will be elected vice chair of Pacifica. Jan, it's all yours.
Thank you. So just addressing the person filling the frame, I am sitting at a normal distance from my computer, but it makes me look, it seems much smaller than everybody else's heads. And I don't know if that's because I have a tiny camera or what, but this, it's like if in order to do this, I'd have to be like on my head over the keyboard practically. So you just have to
we can see you clearly.
Okay, so you just have to kind of be stuck with me as a kind of a small head. Anyway, okay, so let me say, first of all, of course, I am so happy to join people from the affiliate network. And as Ursula said, I've been kind of connected to the affiliate network since 2000, 2003, whenever all of that version of the Pacifica Wars was going on. And it's something that I really care about. And in fact, I would say, well, first of all, that the affiliate network, the affiliate unit of Pacifica is by far the best run unit of Pacifica. It is run like a normal nonprofit business. They, Stephanie and Ursula take care of business. Things run smoothly. It's economically solvent, and unfortunately, I believe that the contributions of the affiliates are of the affiliate network, of the unit, and of the programs that the affiliates put out are totally underutilized by Pacifica. And I think that that is a shame, and hopefully when there's a new day at Pacifica, that will change, because for me, one of the most important parts of Pacifica is the possibilities that Pacifica puts forward, and the possibility of having a network that occasionally is all moving in the same direction, including the 200 plus affiliates, is incredible. I mean, there is a structure there that is so important. The 5 sister stations are important, but if the affiliates and the 5 stations and their small offspring were all moving together on covering some issue, it would be amazing. And that's not to say that Pacifica should be telling affiliates what to do, but just that people would want to be, people would join because they wanted to be. So that being said, I'm, I guess that's a lead into why I and many others are proposing the New Day Pacifica bylaws. And that reason is that Pacifica is in crisis. It's in a financial crisis, fiscal crisis, which luckily COVID money has helped alleviate for the moment, but it is not going to solve the crisis. And it's not just a fiscal crisis. The main problem with Pacifica, and it took me years to understand this, is the structure of Pacifica. And because Pacifica members are all involved in that structure, it's very hard to parse out what is structure and what is actual interpersonal issues. And I don't think the interpersonal issues, there are lots of interpersonal issues, this person is on this side and this person is on this side, but the structural issues are the problem that have created disarray in Pacifica as a whole. And those structural issues can be most plainly seen when you look at, for instance, the number of executive directors that Pacifica has had within the last 18 years. And that is, we've had 17 executive directors, including interim executive directors. And those interim executive directors have been essential, by and large, people who happen to be the chair of the board at any particular time. So that, for instance, now we have Lydia Brazon, who was the chair of the board during a couple of different periods. And then when the last time we needed an executive director because the paid executive director was gone, she volunteered to be the executive director, and there she is. And her training and experience were not in radio. And this has created, this series of executive directors has created a lack of continuity on every level. If you can imagine your organization, on average of once a year or once every year and a half, what that would do to your organization, it's mind-boggling. And the cause of this problem lies in the bylaws. And the bylaws currently provide for micromanagement of Pacifica by the local station boards and by the national boards. And that micromanagement was built into the bylaws because following the escapades of the early 2000s, where it was perceived, and I think rightfully so, that the national board was trying to consolidate power and have a self-perpetuating board. The bylaws were written, and I've talked to several people who were involved in writing them. The bylaws were written so that the local station boards and the national boards would have to work together in order to solve the problems of whatever problems there were in order to move forward at all. And so they thought this was a great idea. And unfortunately, what has happened is they didn't work together necessarily, and nothing often happens because there are so many people in the management slot. So our current bylaws include 122 people on our governing board, and that includes 24 people from each local station board, and then 2 affiliate directors, and that totals 122 people. So when you, let's see, I believe those are the right numbers. It seems like it might be slightly off, but that's basically, that's the gist of it. And so the bylaws currently provide that the local station boards have input into personnel, into programming, into finance, and into outreach, and vaguely into fundraising. And so what that means is that the local station boards elect the national boards, and the national boards elect the officers. So it's a very multi-level structure. And what has happened is that many of the local station boards, most of them, actually take the mandate to be involved in all those things very seriously. And there is micromanagement to the nth degree at Pacifica. And as a result, one of the results of that is that they keep trying to micromanage the executive director and the station managers, and thus we have this incredible turnover. So what do the New Day bylaws provide? It's a very democratic structure, and it reduces the national board from its present 22-person structure to a 15-member board. And that a 15-member board is elected by the membership in each local station area elects one person to represent the local station board, the local station listeners. So that gives you five listeners. Then the paid staff elects one representative to the national board, and the volunteer staff around the country elects a volunteer staff person to represent their perspective on the national board. And the whole universe of members, both staff, paid and volunteer, and listeners, all directly elect the president, the vice president, the secretary, and the treasurer. So you have 5 members from the local station boards, and then you have um, 2 members from the staff, and then you have 4 members from the who are the officers. And then those elected board members elect the 3 at-large people. And the at-large people are on there to fill out the board in whatever way that the board feels that it needs to be filled out, whether it's diversity, whether they feel like they would have like somebody from the trade union movement or the community or whatever, so that there are 3 additional at-large people to balance out the board. And then the affiliate directors, instead of the present system where the actual board, where affiliates nominate themselves and then the board of Pacifica elects the affiliate representative, the affiliate association will elect the affiliate representative directly. And this way, it will be a hopefully much less politicized position. And so that is how the board gets selected. There's the intermediate or the transition board is elected slightly differently, just in an effort to try to get it operating very quickly. And there has been misunderstanding or misinformation about, like how that's going to happen. But to make it very clear, the transition board, the local station boards will elect, each local station will elect 1 person to the national board within 9 days of the approval of the bylaws. So you'll have those 5 people immediately. The approval of the bylaws will also, and the election of those people will be elected immediately. So there's 9 people. And the affiliates will elect their representative also within 9 days. So within 15 days, the 10 people from the board of the ultimately 15-member board will be elected, and they the erstwhile, the present P&B will hand over the reins on the 15th day of the following the approval of the bylaws. And then the staff the national staff will have an election, an electronic election, and elect their person. And then once those 2 people, those 2 people are added, then the entire board will select or elect the at-large people. But you will immediately have a 10-member board within virtually 2 weeks of the bylaws. Now, those are the technicalities of the of the bylaws, and the bigger question is why do this? So the first thing is stability. Pacifica, as sad as it is for all of us who were involved in the revolution of the early 2000s, to attempt to make Pacifica work better, this experiment has been pretty much of a failure. Our listenership has gone down, as has listenership throughout the country. But some radio stations have prospered during this time. Most have gone down, but more importantly, our finances have gone down, and the programming that is the very reason that we have Pacifica in the first place has not prospered. And for instance, my station, where we have, in order to make payroll, we're having fund drives literally every other month. I mean, it just drives people away. So you can't even have good programming because you're just scrambling to try to get um, to get um, payroll met. Um, so um, one of the big questions is, you know what, I'm going to stop now, and instead of me just droning on and on and on, I'd much rather take questions and to find out what it is that you are interested in and care about, and I'll answer those questions if that's okay with you.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, thank you. Any questions?
Questions right off the bat?
Is it true that WPFW Washington DC and WPAI New York City won't have a vote anymore? Won't be a part of the on the board anymore?
No, that is that is part of the big lie. I mean, I don't even know where that idea comes from. And in fact, proportionally speaking, they will actually have a bigger vote than per person than KPFK or KPFA, because their membership, each of their memberships is about half of what KPFK's and KPFA's membership is, but they will have one whole vote. For each station will have a whole vote, because the idea of the board is not to make everybody a proportional voter. It's to make everybody have a voice on the board, so that even though WPFW has a much smaller membership, they get the same representative as the KPFK has, which has, I think, almost twice as many people as WPFW has. So I don't know where that idea that they are not going to have a vote comes from. And
Yeah, my friend at WCRD, he sent this article. I'll put it in the chat.
yeah, I mean, people say it, but I think there is a lot of misinformation, non-information going around. And let me give you the New Day Pacifica website. Very super simple, newdaypacifica.org. So it's easy to find. And there's both, the entire bylaws are set out on one tab, and there's one tab that says details of the bylaws, and that's the one that's much easier to read because you don't have to wade through a lot of irrelevant stuff. And it lays out basically everything I've said right now, plus a lot of other things. So yes, they do get a vote. They get a one vote. Every station gets one vote, no matter if it's a large station or a small station. And let me also add that one of the other issues that seems to come up is there's a discussion about diversity, and that New Day is, is somehow going to be, the impression is like white, elitist, corporate people. So the board is going to be composed of me. I am white, I'm Jewish. But the president, the chair of New Day, is going to be Sharon Kyle, and she is an African-American woman who, by the way, is extremely knowledgeable about finance. She was she worked for NASA for 20 years, and she was a finance manager of the major flights that we all have heard of, like Mars, and I can't remember the name of them, but quite super impressive. And so she knows about finance, and that's what she did for 20 years of her career. And then she decided to become a lawyer, and she went to the National Lawyers Guild Law School, People's College of Law, and attended there, and then became a professor there, and then became the head of that. And she then founded the LA Progressive, and it's an online media magazine, I guess. And so she's Black. The treasurer is Lyndon Foley. He's white. He's the treasurer, and he dealt with finance during his career, and he's retired. And then Akio Tanaka, who's Asian. He's from the San Francisco Bay Area. So there's 4 of us, and it's a pretty diverse group. And our goal is to increase the diversity of voices that is at Pacifica, because, for instance, we do not have enough Latinx programmers and voices on Pacifica, and likewise not enough Asian voices. Interestingly, we have a number of Indigenous or Native American voices, but diversity is one of the things that Pacifica is lacking, and we need to have more of that. And another, I will address another issue that has been sent around, and that is that this is an effort to sell Washington and to sell the New York station, WBAI and WPFW. And that could not be further from the truth, because the only reason that I'm involved in this is to make the Pacifica potentiality a reality, and that is to have a national left media organization, radio organization, but much beyond radio, because we need to be into the 21st century. And if that is your goal, why would you sell a station in New York and Washington? And the whole reason that we want to do this is to have a loudspeaker, and throwing away 2 incredible stations would be like the opposite of what is needed for Pacifica. And all of the officers, and I think virtually everybody involved in it, that is their goal. And, there have been people, there's a lot of people who do support New Day, who have said in the past, oh, we should sell the New York station. I mean, not in the leadership, but people who are members, because people who are worried about Pacifica, the same people who were worried about Pacifica last year or 4 years ago, are probably still worried about it now, because it's, we're in a very precarious situation. Once more, our auditors have said that it is questionable whether we will last through another year. I mean, and they've been saying this for quite a few years now. So it is a question, but it's a question as to whether or not we can economically survive. It is not a question as to whether or not we want to keep all of the stations as part of the network. For sure, we do.
How many affiliates does Pacifica have, the network have?
We have about 125 right now. I mean, 225.
Oh, I was gonna say, I thought, like, how did it drop so precipitously? 225.
It's about 225.
Awesome. Well, if you want to increase the voices of have it more diverse, has there ever been a time when all the affiliates were able to vote on every year?
No, not at all. And in fact, this, if the New Day bylaws pass, having the affiliates elect their own representative will be the first time that even that teeny tiny little bit of democracy will be, will be had. And in terms of, how the affiliates would be involved in voting, I'd be interested in hearing, what anybody had to say. But as of now, that is the extent of it. But the goal of that is for the voice of the affiliates to be heard on the board, because quite honestly, usually in the past, affiliate directors, well, they have been chosen by the national board, and it's often been like, who's going to vote in the way I want them to vote. It hasn't been like, who is the best representative of all of the affiliates. And so I think that will create a big change.
So do you mean that if the vote goes through, then every affiliate, then you would have 225 affiliate representatives on the board then to
Oh, no.
okay.
No, the goal here of the New Day is to streamline the governance so that it can actually function. And in fact, most quote authorities on boards think that even 15 people on a board is too much.
Mm-hmm.
So we're not looking to expand it in that way. Like the affiliate, so no, that would not be within the realm
Yeah,
of.
Jan, can I clarify that for a minute?
Sure. Mhm.
I think Trudy, there's a piece of information missing for Trudy. There never really was any sort of official association representing the affiliates up until about a year ago. And the past board director, who was on the Pacifica National Board last year, he started an organization called the Association of Affiliates, which is now a legal 501c3 organization and has crafted a mission statement that demonstrates compliance with the Pacifica mission. And so I think what Jan is saying is that they would then be empowered to carry out whatever sort of election the affiliates wanted to carry out to decide who to send to the board. Now, I know that Stephanie talked to Robin, who kind of is the head of this association, and about whether he could present here and explain what they're doing. And he, correct me if I'm wrong, Stephanie, but I think what he said is they wanted to wait until to see what the Pacifica board did before they got, before they kind of got their voice in there, that they wanted to defer first to the Pacifica process before they would, make a presentation to kind of explain how they're trying to organize this. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So they were willing to come here and explain how they would carry this out. They just don't want to jump the gun before it's clear what Pacifica wants to do. Is that clear?
Yes, I was just wondering then if once Pacifica decides what to do, then might it be a little too late for the association to carry out its mission if what Pacifica decides, what the board decides, does not gel with the mission of the association?
Well, the mission of the association has already been established. You can, the mission of the association is essentially to comply with the Pacifica mission.
Okay.
So crafted that to, so that they would have standing and the authority to, what we wouldn't want would be a mission that wasn't in compliance with Pacifica. Then you kind of have a strange situation where the clients are working at cross interests of the organization. So they've kind of done all that. What they haven't done, I don't think they figured out how they would actually run an election you know, to come up with a board member. And I just don't think they've taken it that far, but I can't really speak for them. I have not been involved with that.
Okay. Yeah, I get a little better idea now. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Yeah, but they have a mission already, and I'm sure if you contact Robin, he can tell you, he can send it to you.
Okay. Do they have a website?
I don't think they actually, I don't know. That's a really good question. If you Google Association of Affiliates, I would be surprised if they have a website. They're not that, it's a very low key, you know, organization because they have not really been clear as to what their role is. So they haven't really, I don't think they're trying to hide anything. I think they're just being careful in terms of how they develop. So I don't know if they have a website. I doubt it, but I don't know.
Or could you provide us with contact information for Robin?
Yeah,
Because
yeah, we can, I'll put that in the chat.
Okay, thank you.
Stephanie just put it in the
Got
chat.
an invitation to join the association yet.
Yeah. Do you see his email down there at the bottom? Stephanie just posted.
Cultural Energy, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
gmail.com. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, that's
And
Robin.
what is Robin's last name?
Collier.
Okay.
Collier.
Okay, thank you.
He's in New Mexico. He's in Taos.
Oh, Taos. Okay, awesome.
Any other questions?
I have 3 questions for you, Jan.
Sure.
If nobody else does, I don't want to take
Okay.
up time. But I was curious, 3 questions. One is, you mentioned one board member would be elected by staff. What
Yes.
do you mean by staff? What
What kind-
is that?
People, okay, so staff is everybody who is a paid staff member. So,
The stations and the national office and just
Yes.
everybody who's paid?
yes, and I don't know if quote management is included in that. I can't remember offhand. And I don't want to take the time at this instant to find out, but I think I will look it up for myself.
so does
But
that mean-
it's basically paid staff.
So they would have to, or we would have to figure out some way to organize ourselves, or is there because paid staff at Pacifica don't really know each other.
Right. So there are different ideas about that, about how the paid staff is going to, is going to vote. One idea that I have had and that's kind of bounced around is to let everybody know that there's going to be a Zoom meeting on a certain day. And everybody can come to that Zoom meeting and they can nominate people. They can, have nominating speeches, and then the staff will be sent ballots and they can vote. And, just the way they vote in other kinds of elections, like the staff will be voting in the New Day election. So
It's kind of like a collective bargaining unit in a strange.
it's kind of like a collective bargaining unit.
Interesting.
And so I'm not sure if management, like where you would fall in, you particularly, where you would fall in that.
Right.
So.
Yeah, it would apply to you, Stephanie, probably. Okay, so my other question is, the unit that I did not hear having a board member representative was the Pacifica Radio Archives, as far as I know. You're in Los Angeles. Are they interested in being represented, or what about them?
I think that they would be included as staff, as part of staff.
Okay.
Yeah, because it's a unit that has probably 10 people.
Okay.
No more than 25 soaking wet.
Right.
So they
Okay.
would undoubtedly be.
So they're not representing listeners or stations. They're, yeah.
Yeah.
And then I guess my third question is more general. So you may want to move on to somebody else. I'm just curious what the intentions and goals are when you make these changes. You said at the beginning that you were looking for, organizational efficiency, but I'm wondering if, in your planning, if there are more specific goals and intentions that you're trying to enact with this.
Well, looking for my little notes here. Well, I mean, I think that the let me just gather my thoughts for 1 second. Well, one of the biggest things that we are looking to be able to do is to have the most simplest of things, and that is a stable structure. And one of the very first things that we are going to do is to hire an executive director, an experienced, competent executive director, and who the national board will support to do their job. And I mean, that sounds super simple, like, well, of course, but Pacifica has been unable and or unwilling to elect to hire and have an executive director who knows how to run a radio network, who is committed to the Pacifica mission. And one of the things that we will require is that somebody have done something in their past to indicate to us that they are committed to the Pacifica mission or something like it. That they were involved in some way with some social movement or something, because we're not interested in being a clone of NPR or of, ABC. So this is an important aspect of what we're looking for, but somebody who is absolutely experienced as an executive director of a network and experienced in doing fundraising and getting grants, and somebody that we plan to have as a permanent executive director. Then that person will be able to look at the programming and figure out, how to pump up our listenership, how to get funding. I mean, the most basic of things, to start with is funding from the Corporation for Public Broadcasting. And we lost that because our audits got in arrears, and some of our stations did not have a sufficient number of listeners. So those things need to be addressed immediately. Our audits are being caught up thanks to COVID, primarily, ironically. So our audits are being caught up, but the the auditors themselves have said that we need to have a different board structure, that the infighting in the board is just counterproductive. So an executive director, and by the way, the question often comes up, like, how is a different structure going to help with fundraising? I mean, it's a very logical question. And I don't know how many of the affiliates are aware of the reputation for Pacifica for its infighting and unstable boards, but it is well known in the I guess non-commercial radio world that Pacifica is pretty unstable, and we go through these executive directors very fast. So there have been a number of funders who have contacted us who are interested in donating if we actually, if the bylaws change. And, you know, we're obviously not taking money from them now, but we have talked to them about funding the executive director position should we win, because that's an important aspect, and that's something that everybody cares about. And did I answer your question? Who knows what the question was at this point?
I think so. I was just, I was trying to understand the rationale that was being followed. And I think it sounds like, a lot of what reducing the size of the board is an effort to streamline it so that it's more manageable. That's kind of what I'm hearing you say.
Well, yeah, and refocusing the local station boards is a very important part of that. So instead of them constantly nipping at the heels of the local general managers and program directors, that their focus will now be on outreach and analyzing programs to see if they fit the needs of the community, and fundraising, and rather than management. And this will allow and that same culture of micromanagement will also be eliminated at the national board, so that people will be, the national board, their focus is going to be on supporting the executive director and on policy and on, and that will be what and fundraising, and that will be what the national board will be doing. And I'll just give you an example of the craziness of the micromanagement. So the national board, within the last year, has been involved in making decisions regarding staffing at individual stations. Like this person should be fired, this person should not be fired. And, this is a multi-million-dollar project with executive director and general managers, and their job is supposed to be directing person and a personnel department, and their job is supposed to be, managing personnel. And when the national board is involved in staffing decisions at a local level, it means that they're micromanaging, and that is a major part of the problem. And right now, Pacifica is just at a time in this country where we need to be reaching out and growing, and could be reaching out and growing. That is why New Day is trying to make that happen at Pacifica, because what otherwise is happening if we keep with the status quo, there's been just a downward spiral in finances and in programming, and it's just very likely. And there's many of you may have heard about we have a $3.1 million debt that we have, and there has been no real plan on how we're going to pay that back. I mean, it's a we've had committees, we've had a strategic planning committee, and we have a development committee. We have a loan repayment committee, but mostly those committees are saying, get more money, and there's not actually a concrete plan to do that. And that is one of the, we got an extension on that loan. And I'll give you, I'll also just give you a little, no, I won't. So it's now due in October of 2020, a year and a half from now, basically, whenever that is. So a year from now would be October of 2023, I guess. So
I see Sharon has her hand up, and then Trudy.
Hi.
hi.
Hi, I'm with an affiliate, WXOX, here in Louisville, Kentucky. I have a few questions, but I was a little bit late, so I don't want to have you recap anything that has been said already. But one question, just when you were talking about the desire not to micromanage, you did mention that the new board would be analyzing programming. Would you be analyzing programming at individual Pacifica stations?
No, actually what I said was that the local station boards would be analyzing programming, not the national board.
It was in an earlier part, but thank you for clarifying. You also mentioned that there were donors that were willing to give if the bylaws were changed. Can you tell us who those donors are?
Unfortunately, I can't. So I'm sorry, I can't.
And
But
so those donations are dependent on the bylaws changing.
yeah, I mean they've made that clear to us.
Okay.
Because what they're looking at is they want, there's a lot of people who say, oh, I don't want to, spend good money after bad. So that's been their analysis. And so we're, they're just waiting and seeing what's going to happen. And some of them have donated, a number of them have donated to the campaign to change the bylaws.
Okay. And in terms
And let me just say this. Oh, go ahead, ask your question.
if you had something to say, please go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say that this campaign has grown tremendously. We have a petition that we're having people sign, members sign, saying that they're committed to New Day or to changing the bylaws, and there are 6,000 signatures on that right now. So it's not a small little group of people. It's more people than it's more than half the number of people who voted entirely in the last election.
You mentioned a small group of people. At one point you mentioned 4 individuals, including yourself and someone named Sharon. Were those to be board members on the New Day organization?
Yes, they will be elected. So this referendum is kind of a 2-part referendum. It's both electing, approving the bylaws and electing the first set of officers.
And that's yourself and Sharon.
Sharon Kyle, and Akio Tanaka, and Lyndon Foley.
And is that on the website? I could find those names.
Yes, and you can find the bios of everybody there also.
Okay. And then before I let everyone go, I'm sorry. Thank you for taking the time to answer. But you're mentioning about the executive director, which I understand has been, you know, obviously some turmoil for Pacifica, wanting to find a great leader for this organization, this historic organization and very important organization. Obviously, it takes the right person to do that, and Pacifica has tried on a few shoes and they haven't quite fit at this time. But I believe that the board is trying, and historically they are trying, as you say, New Day is, to find the right person that can lead this organization for years to come in the right direction. So my question for you is, what makes New Day Pacifica feel that they could do a better job at finding that right person than the board as it currently stands?
So I don't think that finding the right person has been the problem. It has been keeping the right person. Because I think that Pacifica is particularly good at letting the perfect be the enemy of the good. That is to say, finding the perfect person to do any job is perhaps is difficult, but finding an excellent person to do the job or a very good person to do the job is not nearly as hard as finding the perfect person. And perfect would have to be the perfect person for 5 different people or 20 different people. And so what has happened is that we have had people who have been who've been good people, but they've been chased out because they wanted to do, you know, one thing or another. You know, we had the Maxie Jackson, who was to be the chair for a while.
I think we've all heard about, you know, the history of Pacifica. What I'm interested in is future, especially in terms of New Day.
Yes. Okay.
So would you all, the 4 individuals that you mentioned, would you all determine the new executive director? And
no, it would be the board.
But would you all be the board in the initial days?
Okay, so I guess you missed that part. So
Oh yes, I did. I'm sorry.
okay, so the board, the very first meeting of the board will include 10 people. It won't be those 4 people. It will include the 4 officers, but it will also include 1 representative elected by the local station boards from each of the 5 stations, plus 1 from the affiliates.
So it would take some time then to get the representatives from each station elected to make that the new decision on the executive director.
Well, they would, their first meeting is going to be 15 days after the approval of the bylaws. And that would be the search for an executive director would be the very first thing on the agenda. And
that would also include the employees that you mentioned. Within 15 days of the new board, you would have this employee representative had been voted on as well?
No, the employee representatives are going to take a little bit longer because it's a larger number of people. So that's going to take a little bit longer. And it may be that the initial 10 people might appoint an interim executive director more immediately. And because the search for a permanent executive director might, you know.
So that sounds like another director.
Well, yes, but at least it would be somebody who is experienced in radio and not just qualified because they were on the board.
And do you all have someone in mind?
No.
I yield the floor.
Thank
I
you,
wish we
Sharon.
did. I wish we did, but we don't.
We have Trudy and then Heather and then Davine.
Thank you. How many individuals voted in the last election, and then how many people will be voting in this election?
So about 25% of the people of the membership and staff, we'll just lump them together. Approximately 25% of the membership voted in the last election. And I believe that there were approximately 42,000 members. So roughly a little bit more than 10,000 people voted.
And
And
then
the present membership, we don't know what the final numbers are, but the present membership is probably around 37,000. So we've lost a substantial number of members in the last year.
And the membership comprises those who it's like PBS, right? They pay for their annual dues to become members. The membership does not comprise the affiliates, though, right? It just comprises. I see.
Correct. If anybody who is an affiliate wanted to join, I encourage you to do that and to pick a station. It's too late to be eligible to
Got it. Okay, I'm recording. Okay, sorry, Trudy. Stephanie, she got knocked off somehow.
Okay, Heather has her hand up, by the way.
Okay, but Trudy, you had a question.
Yes, yes, concerning what Jen described as the email sent out to affiliates asking if they would like to nominate someone, or someone from the station would like to serve as representative and send their name in, and then a recommendation from the station management about that person to be the representative. And if I remember correctly, there is only one representative to represent all 225 affiliates, right?
Well, no, there's been, right now there's,
Go ahead.
now the way the system is now, there's two. There's
Okay.
her, and there's somebody called Jose Gutierrez, who is from Washington. So right now there are two affiliate members. With the New Day proposal, there would be one member.
And Jen, why did the number go down? How does that help?
Well, we're trying to, as I said, we're trying to make the board smaller and more functional. So we are having we're having voices from all of the interested, important people. But, if we had the more people you have, the harder it is to get anything done. So we have so we're reducing the board size from 22 to 15. So we're taking away, we're taking away staff votes, we're taking away station votes, we're taking away affiliate votes, but we're having, but everybody still is on the board and has a voice. So that's the reason.
Thank you, Jen.
Mm-hmm.
I guess Stephanie's not here. So Heather, you have your hand raised, right?
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to mention, Jen, you were talking about seeking a new executive director. And in fact, I am on the personnel committee on the Pacifica board, and that's precisely what we're doing right now. We're developing this process to seek a new executive director. I just wanted to mention that to everyone. It's not that it's not being done, because it is.
Oh, good.
I will be, I'm sorry, Jen, I'll be able to report more about this, because I am new to this committee and, but I can present something to the executive. I'm sorry, to the affiliates as well about this. So I'm sorry, go ahead, Jen.
Oh, I was just going to say the last board meeting that I heard a discussion about it, there was a question from the search committee as to whether or not they could continue on because there wasn't enough money to find out if there was enough money to continue on searching. And there was a 45-minute discussion about how wonderful the present interim executive director was, and the end result was no, they were not going to give them the information about whether there was enough money or not. So has that changed? They said now there is enough money?
That's my impression. Yes,
Oh, good. I'm happy to hear that.
yes.
Good. Okay.
Heather, while you're there, could you briefly tell us who's involved with that search right now? I mean,
Yes.
in kind of a general way.
Yes, there are, I'm looking, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4, 5, 6 members on the personnel committee. So, and I've only been into a couple of meetings, but I've been impressed with the initiatives, actually, the developing criteria for who we would want as executive director and so forth. And we're also working with another company for this purpose as well. And I'm going to have to get, as said, I'm going to have to get that information to everyone. I don't have that in front of me right now, so I apologize about that, but I will get that to everyone.
Heather, are those individuals like yourselves?
They're board members. They're board
board
members.
members?
Yes, all board members, exactly.
And you say there's a consulting firm as well?
Yes, there is. Yes.
Okay, and you could let us know because that is
Absolutely. Absolutely.
great.
So I apologize. I was not prepared for that in particular today, but I will get that. Exactly.
great. And radio experience, I'm sure, is something you all are looking for.
Exactly. Exactly.
Trudy, you put a request in the chat. Could you say what it is that you were requesting? Stephanie's not here, so I just want to make sure I understand what you're requesting.
I was asking Stephanie to please forward her email to the affiliates asking for nominees for affiliate representative that she sent out in November, because we could not find that email. And
Okay.
then my email is stationmanager@wzrdchicago.org.
Station manager.
Yes, at wzrdchicago.org.
We love WZRD.
Oh, thank you.
Okay. Do you get the email? We have a listserv for station managers. Do you get those emails?
Yes, we do.
Okay. Okay. So it'll come that way.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Trudy.
And can I ask one more question? You know, there are a core group of stations that seem to be on the board. How do stations become the core group of stations?
Are you asking me?
Could you ask that again?
Yeah, anyone who could answer. Yes, I don't know who has the best expertise about that aspect.
Okay, can I ask you a question? When you say a core group of people, are you talking about a core group of affiliate?
Yes,
people?
like in this article, there's WPFW and then WBAI, KPFA, and
Oh, okay. So let me explain. So Pacifica has 5 stations that are part of its own network.
oh,
Those are the ones that you just mentioned.
Yeah. What she means by that is Pacifica owns those stations.
oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, so Pacifica, which is a nonprofit membership organization, owns those 5 stations. And then it has the affiliate unit, which is the Pacifica Network. Is that what it's called? And the Pacifica Network then has 225 affiliate stations.
Mhm.
So that's the difference. So each of the affiliate stations owns itself, or however its ownership structure is and runs itself, the 5 Pacifica stations are governed by the bylaws. Does
And
that, does that explain that?
yes, and the affiliate stations, are they mostly college radio and community radio, or are there also for-profit stations as well?
That's a really good question. Basically, the network historically is college stations, community stations, low power stations, and internet, non-commercial internet stations. Now, there are regularly commercial stations that are interested in affiliating with us, and it's a difficult question to answer as to how to deal with those. So because I don't think a commercial station should be able to be on the board of directors of Pacifica. I think that's a little bit mixing apples and oranges. And so we've kind of, up until this point, we fashioned a different type of contract where they contract out for a particular purpose. And so I wouldn't really call them an affiliate. I would call them a client who, is buying a certain program from us. But it's a little bit of a gray area that I actually have recently asked our lawyer to help me figure out how to really navigate that. Because we do get regular requests from commercial stations that they want to access a particular program. But traditionally, we have not made them into affiliates, no.
And who selects the board of directors?
Who selects the board of directors of Pacifica?
Yes.
Okay, so in the current bylaws, the members at each station, it's a kind of a Baroque system. So the members at each station elect 18 of the 18 listener members. So the listeners elect 18 listener members of the local station board. And then the staff at each of the stations elects 6 members to the local station board. So a total of 24 people, a mixture of staff and listeners. And then those people, those 24 people then elect 4 people to the national board, 4 listeners and 1 staff person. And then, so you have 4 people from each station. And so that's 5 times 5. So that's 20 people onto the national board. And then that national board, then they elect the affiliate directors. So the affiliates don't elect the affiliate directors. The national board elects 2 of the affiliate directors who apply on that form that you can't find.
And the other directors on the board, the non-affiliate directors, there are several of those as well, right?
Well, there's the 20 people who represent each station, and then there's 2 affiliate directors. So that's a 22 member board entirely.
For just one station or for the national board?
For the national board. So the national board is composed of 20 people elected by each of the 5 local station boards.
Okay.
Each of the 5 local station boards elects 4 people. So 4 times 5 is 20, plus the 2 affiliate directors. So it's a 22 member board entirely. And under the new day, and then those people, those 22 people then elect the president, the vice president, the secretary, and the treasurer. So they come out of those 22 people. So under the new day bylaws, the listeners elect directly somebody to the national board, and the staff elects directly to the national board, and the affiliates, the affiliate elect directly to the national board.
So we could skip one step of electing the go-between then, is what you're saying.
Yes, there's a lot, yeah, all of that. I mean, and, you know, because one of the problems is that for Pacifica, members of Pacifica, very few of them know who the national board members are at all. They don't know who's representing them on the national board. They don't know who the president, the vice chair, nobody. They, you know, it's really pretty far off in the distance. So this makes it a much more direct elections.
So the local board now has no role at the national level. The local board of each station has no role in the National Pacifica Board under the New Day deal?
Correct. The local board is not, is refocused away from governance into support role. Yeah.
That's a nice way to put it. The next time I let someone go, I'll tell them I'm refocusing their energies.
Well, that's right, because what's happened, unfortunately, I mean, the idea of having the local boards be intricately involved in the station is,
what's kept Pacifica going for.
well, no, it's actually
Yeah.
depends on how you look at it, but what's happened is it's really caused instability, because, you know, what do you have to do to be on the local station board, to be in charge of managing a radio station? You have to breathe, and you have to be have run.
Chosen by the listeners.
And you don't even have to be chosen,
Oh, I
because
thought you had to be elected.
no, because all you have to do is run, because when people go off of the national board, off of the local station board, because of whatever reason, you know, they're sick or they move or whatever, when people go off, or they, then the next highest loser goes on. And there have been occasions when people who've gone on, there's at least one occasion where somebody has gone on and the only person who voted for that person was themselves. But
Okay.
and many stations, their whole, you know, they have 4, 5, 6 people who are, who lost, who then become part, so you don't even have to be a winner.
Okay, so I just want to clarify, on the new deal, the local boards would not have any role in deciding who represents them on the national level, and there will be the addition of 4 individuals who are joining the board. Who is selecting those individuals, or have they been self-selected, and for how long are those terms?
Okay, so of course, the local station board members have a vote, just like everybody else does, for both the, you know, I mean, not as a board, they don't elect them, but, you know, like if I'm on the local station board, I get to vote in the national election. I don't get a special vote because I'm on the local station board. It's just that each individual, you know, because they're a member, they get to vote in the national.
Get a vote instead of a representative.
Yeah, people just vote for them. And those people who are represent the station because the members have voted for them, except the first election, the local station board will elect the first in the transition representative. You understand that?
So the first representative will be elected by the local station board, and from there on out, it will be the listeners in each broadcast area that determine.
Exactly. And as for the 4 officers in normally each person will vote for an officer. Like if you're a member of the steelworkers, you directly elect Trumpka. If you're a member of, you know, like different organizations, people just directly elect their national officers, because then you know what their program is. It's a
Let's
direct.
try to focus on Pacifica instead of
Okay,
other.
I know, I'm just saying
Well, it's kind of getting late,
Pacifica-
so let's just focus on Pacifica. I'm not
Okay,
interested in this.
Pacifica-
How are these 4 individuals selected?
Normally, they're just elected by people voting for them. People nominate themselves or are nominated, and then they get voted on, just
By,
like that. Now, in the first
who?
transition election, people vote for, if they
When you
vote
say
for,
people, you need to clarify who you're talking about.
okay, I'm sorry, members. Members,
Pacifica
both,
members.
both staff and listeners will vote for or against the New Day bylaws and election of officers. Okay, so if you don't want the officers, you vote no on the referendum. If you say, I do not want Jan Goodman, you vote no on the referendum. If you don't want the bylaws, but you do want the officers, you vote no.
Okay.
So it's like one vote, you vote no on the officers, if you know, and if you want the officers and you want the bylaws, you vote yes. But if you don't want one, you vote no. You
And
don't want
for-
either one.
And
So,
for how long are those initial terms?
you know, it's very interesting, because on the one hand, this election was when the bylaws were written, when the set of the bylaws were written, they were supposed to have started, the election was supposed to have started in May. And so the timeline is now about a year behind what was thought that it was going to be. So according to one part of the bylaws, it said that the officers would serve, that the transition board would serve for 3 years. But there's another part of the bylaws that say that the election would be in the end of 2023, I think, 22 or 22 or 23, I can't remember. So there's a conflict there because, and I'm sorry, I can't remember which number it is offhand. I could look it up, but then.
I mean, it is important to know how long those initial
So
terms
it's
are,
between,
especially when these individuals haven't.
it's between 18 months and 2.5 years.
Okay, and then once those terms are up, how are those 4 seats on the board determined?
As I said, there'll be a national membership election. So people will get a ballot, each person who's a member, and staff members, listener members and staff members will all get a ballot, and will all get ballots, and they will vote for who the president should be, who's the vice president.
I mean, in terms of replacing at the end of the term, the initial term, replacing those 4 individuals, those seats, how are those seats determined in the future?
There'll be an election.
So it's
I
the general election.
I don't understand. I've said it twice, but so I don't understand. I'm sure that there's some miscommunication here. So if if I'm a member, okay, I'm a member at KPFK, I will get a ballot, and the ballot will have the names of, however many people want to run for the local station board, the local station director. So maybe there's 5 people running, it could be, Trudy and Ursula and Jan and.
Can these people just nominate themselves? Do they have
Yeah,
to
they can just nominate themselves.
Okay, so for the 4 seats,
And then there'll be.
anyone can nominate themselves, anyone can be nominated for that. They don't have to be
Correct.
affiliated with the station.
Yes, the only thing is that they have to have been a member for 2 years of Pacifica for 2 years. And the reason for that is just, we want to just make sure that people are not just kind of coming in to try to do some fast takeover. Of course, it could be a slow takeover, but we're at least making
Really
it.
I mean, it's something that Pacifica really needs to be careful about. And to be
Yeah,
honest,
absolutely.
how can we, I mean, I think that's the subject here is how can we be certain that this isn't a quick takeover of Pacifica?
That's certainly a good question. I mean, I think looking at who the who the officers are might be a good, way to consider it. I mean, you could consider, my background. I mean, I've been on the boards for 16 years, or not 16 years, 20, I'm close to 20 years now.
Right, and according to your own terms, you've been very ineffective.
I've been in the minority most of that time, so yes, I have been ineffective.
I mean, you've been there 16 years and there's all of these problems that you're telling us about, yet you're still telling us you're the one to change all these problems, yet everything you're talking about sounds like it's just making it more convoluted and more confusing and throwing Pacifica off the track that it needs to be on, which is just focusing on what it is and moving forward. So
well, I think that the key here is that I am not purporting to be the expert. What we think is going to be the solution is going to be having an executive director who is competent and experienced, professional.
and that's exactly what the board has been wanting for years. And I haven't heard anything different as you saying how you're going to accomplish that. You don't have anyone in mind so far,
Well, I think that perhaps you're not hearing the big issue here is that we have had good executive directors and they've all been chased off. They've been fired, they've been chased off, and and it's been incredibly disruptive because each one of those people who has started, for instance, a fundraising program or a theme of like getting people on one track of how they're going to raise funds, those people are then they start that, they're into it 6 months and then they're pushed off the board. And that I just don't know any other organization that has had 17 executive directors in 18 years. And it is not because people.
That's a problem, but what's the solution and how is a new organization going to change that? Because you're still having people and you still have internal, egos and conflicts and I don't understand how just saying, this isn't working and throwing the cards in and forming something new when the new isn't specifically addressing, well, how are we going to deal with these conflicts? How are we going to find a new executive director? All I've been hearing about is the problems that Pacifica has had. I haven't heard anything about how this new organization is going to change things and make things different and make an executive director want to stay longer. And anyway, aren't those problems that the current board should be able to work out anyway? And if you can't, then how is taking some of the present board members and putting them somewhere else gonna solve?
The biggest thing, and maybe you didn't hear it because you didn't join right at the beginning,
I'm sorry.
is the issue of micromanagement. There are present bylaws.
Okay, then
Demand, wait a minute, they demand, the present bylaws demand micromanagement. They say the local station board. Yes, they say the local station boards should be, and the national boards should be involved in finance, personnel, programming.
And so you all don't think that the local stations should be involved in that there should in fact just be a small group of individuals making all of those decisions for the Pacifica stations?
We believe that an executive director should be in charge of programming and
Programming at the specific Pacifica stations?
And managing the general managers, and let me explain this too, because a lot of them are not.
All right, hold on just a second. Can we make just a ground rule here that we let each other finish talking before we interrupt?
Apologies.
Very, very hard to have a conversation.
Thank you, Ursula.
So yes, we believe that having an executive director be the manager of the general managers, and the general managers be in charge of each station is very important. It's not a novel idea. That's probably the way most networks run, but that's the way. And we, each of our stations, and I don't know how much the people on this call know about Pacifica, but each station is very unique. For instance, WPFW is primarily a music station with primarily focused on jazz with public affairs. Texas is primarily a music station, primarily country-ish music, but other music also, and also public affairs. KPFK and KPFA are primarily public affairs with a certain number of, a certain amount of music and other cultural programming. And WBAI in New York is a combination of music, cultural programming, and public affairs. And WBAI was a massively important and large station that now has a much smaller listener base. I think it's in the area of something like 6,000 or 7,000 people, and it was 20 or 30,000 people in earlier days. And also one of the things I haven't talked about is the importance of having, for Pacifica, of continuing for each station to have its identity. Not, we're not looking to make all of them into like one or the other. Each one has a long historic history. WPFW is primarily historically been African-American oriented.
I'm sorry, I'm going to jump in, Jan, only because it's a matter of time here and we don't need to hear the history.
And maybe there,
but what I wanted to
Heather also has,
I
I don't know if Heather still has her hand up.
I'm sorry, I was trying to talk. Davine has had her hand up for a long time. I'd like her to get to her question, but I just wanted to clarify that you just now said that the general manager that the board would be hiring would then be managing the general managers at each of the stations. So really it's a reversal of the micromanagement. The stations would no longer be managing the board, the national board of directors. Instead, the national board of directors would be more micromanaging the local stations. So it is what it seems to me. Did you say that the new executive director would be controlling the local general managers? And if so, could you clarify?
Yes, so I didn't say that the board would be controlling the general manager. I did say that the executive director would be
the executive director that has been chosen.
Yeah, the executive director, exactly. The executive director is the supervisor of the general manager, and then the general managers manage the station.
Would this new executive director have more of a role over the station managers than they presently do?
Well, of course, because right now the local station board is intricately involved in trying to manage the local station. Different stations are different.
Isn't that
At KPFK,
honestly, I cannot have time for the specific examples.
I know,
You
but
just said that the local station boards now presently control and their local stations. And are you saying that in the new way, the local board would not be choosing their general manager and directing their own stations?
Okay, so the local station board has quite a bit of influence in the local station, and each station is very different.
Like that's their job.
Each station is very different. But yes, I mean, clearly the local station board is not going to be involved in management anymore.
They won't be involved in the management of their own station?
Correct. Because because they're not going to be part of governance anymore. Their local representative, their director, who they elect, will be part of the national board. So they definitely will have input into the national board. But the local station board will not be involved in managing the station. And part of what this whole system has created is massive gridlock, and that is going to be eliminated.
Okay, let's go to Heather and then Lewis.
Oh, thanks. I just wanted to say just briefly, and you might disagree with me on this, Jan, but you were talking about people not knowing who the representatives are for the various stations around, or people around the country, I guess, or in the various station communities. But I do want to say, it just seems to me that Pacifica tries to be incredibly transparent, because in most of the national board meetings, there are the open meetings, and then for some of the economic issues or whatever, or some things that should not be in the open community, there are the closed meetings. But I've always been so impressed with that. So I just wanted to mention that.
Oh, sure.
This is food for thought. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, no question about it. We have open meetings. It's not like, it's just that people who are just members rarely are involved in listening to them. But I think it's.
But if they could, if they wanted to, right?
Of course, yeah, absolutely.
Exactly. Which has impressed me.
I think
to say.
Yeah. Look, Pacifica is a precious jewel.
That's true.
And I just want to make sure that it survives. That's my goal, and that's New Day's goal.
Okay, well, thanks. That's what I wanted to say.
Yeah, sure.
Let's go to Lewis.
Hi. Hello, Jan. And I want to apologize to you, Stephanie. I've been so busy with my family, I haven't been able to get back to you. I'm so sorry about that.
Oh, that's okay. No worries.
But Jan, as you know, I've been involved in Pacifica for a very long time. And some of the best experiences I've ever had have been there at KPFK, and also some of the most absurd, maddening insanity I've ever experienced has also been in Pacifica at KPFK. But, and I saw this structure take shape after the Pacifica Wars related to Mary Frances Berry, and it was very hopeful that things would work out for Pacifica with this kind of very deep democracy that was attempted. But my eyewitness, right on the scene perception of it has been that it is a gridlock. It just doesn't function well. I don't know that New Day Pacifica is going to solve the problem, but I'm supporting it because it's something. And it's something, it does streamline it. It does look to be more efficient. I think there's a lot of problems there, including just many of the decisions and the program. So a lot of the programming I find actually profoundly embarrassing. We've got to do something with it, because you just said it's a precious jewel. It is a precious jewel, but it's slipping out of the grasp of anyone to save it. And I just see it will be destroyed inevitably. I don't know how many years, but I'm going to guess it's not many. So I think we got to do something. I applaud your work in trying to find a solution. I don't know that it's going to work, but I'm willing to try it. And that's why I'm endorsing it. And that's why I ran for the board the last time. And I really do hope we can save it. Status quo is definitely not working, and I can tell you, as having been a part of it and witnessed it, I was there. I had Mary Frances Berry in the room. I saw the whole thing go down. So I'm with you on this. Okay.
Well, thank you.
Hmm.
Thank you, Louis.
Maybe you
Um,
might have a comment that would be apropos of, since you have been involved in Pacifica, apropos of Sharon's questions and comments. That is to say, like why, what local station board have or haven't done to support Pacifica and the local station managers and the local stations.
Are you addressing that to me?
I was.
Oh, well,
Just for everybody to know, Louis Vandenberg, who, I don't know if I've ever seen you before, actually.
I've been in your house.
Oh, there you are.
I must not have made a
The
terrible
Stalinista who doesn't remember who's there. But anyway, but Louis has been involved in KPFK.
I'm not doubting that Pacifica has been ineffective recently. I'm just not certain that it isn't because the right people haven't been involved, and maybe energize, there has to be other ways to energize the local boards, other ways to energize the national board. Maybe people on the national board have been on there too long,
You are absolutely right about having the right people, because I'll tell you what I've seen at KPFK. I've seen madmen living in a baking, the Swedish, a huge van that says Swedish bakery, parked in the parking lot of KPFK, on the local board, get on the local board because they are living on a trust fund or something, and they have nothing, they have no nothing in their life other than an obsession with KPFK. And here's how you get involved. You go in the door, and you just go in and you just start doing stuff in the station, and you can be completely out of your mind. And because you're just there, you kind of get more and more involved and get more. I've seen a guy with attack another guy with a knife there, and that guy is on the board. So there's people there who are half or more out of their mind on the board of KPFK. So yes, the wrong people.
I mean, if there's someone who's tried to stab someone, clearly, the board needs to take action on that. But kind of the beauty of community radio is that we do open our doors to these people, and we give people microphones that might never.
Yes, well, as you know, I operate a station within the University of California, and because it's property of the University of California, and the coming onto the campus is controlled, you have to actually have a certain level of functionality and sanity and cooperation with people and civility in order to get onto the campus and into the departments and into the radio station. And I'm just saying that there is no filter. And if you go to, there's other public radio stations in Los Angeles. If you go to KCRW, they've got their problems, which have been publicized, but it's operating mostly with civility and with competence. There's a threshold of competence. There's another one. What's the one in the most popular one in the city is the one at Pasadena, KPCC. again, it's the same thing. It's probably over professionalized. I really love the accessibility of KPFK, but there was a guy that was just living upstairs in the studio upstairs and just stealing equipment. And I went to the management and said, I'm sorry, but you got to do something about getting this guy out of there. And finally they did, but it took a lot of time. I mean,
Well,
we
that is the beauty of Pacifica. I mean, we're not public radio. We're not, we are open doors and open space.
have you actually been in one of the major Pacific stations and actually produced and been and seen it in practice?
No, I have not. I do know the history and the legacy of Pacifica in that all other radio is controlled by numbers and money and, all this.
I think your criticism is really sound and thoughtful, but unfortunately, not having solid management, not having management that understands that we have to actually not be a tree falling in a forest and have the debate of whether anyone listened to it or not, and not having a management that says, and one of the things that really disturbs me about KPFK is having completely unproven health claims being sold to fund the station.
Okay, well, the board of directors, to be an effective board, can make policies and they can make the filters and they can make these things. If someone tries to stab someone, they're out. If they steal equipment, they're out. If they give fake,
That guy is not.
But that doesn't require
that guy is still
expanding
there.
the entire board. It requires making the board more effective. And
I agree
standards
completely.
that other
But
people need to hold
but the
to.
point is that it hasn't been effective, and it's not effective because it's just it's a road to hell paved with good intentions.
Okay, and so the good intentions here, I've heard, but I haven't seen any road work going on. I've heard that they want to maybe take the national board wants to have less control from the affiliate stations, but more control over the affiliate stations, and that they're not, and I guess that's what you're advocating, Louis, is that they would send someone in that would clean up KPFK and KPFA or whatever,
Well,
and hire a new manager for that station. The national board would hire a new manager for that station, close the doors to all the eccentric people that have been walking in there for hundreds of years, and that's the guts of what
those eccentric people that I know about, and that I were originally there, the brilliant intellectuals that were there when I first went in there and I found so inspiring, are all gone. They're very rare to find those people now. And
so what do you suggest, Louis? I mean, what do you suggest?
Unfortunately, I
Policy?
don't think the answer is obvious at all, but I do know that unfortunately it's been KPFK and the other stations are not attracting the kind of talent to them that would actually make the operations viable in terms of an audience and viable in terms of financially. It seems to be a very elusive thing.
So how is this? I just don't get how the
May I respond?
Excuse me.
Yeah, let's go
I think-
to
Sharon, let's let Jan
let's go
talk
to
again.
Jan.
I'm sorry, I didn't realize that.
So I do want to address the theory that we're discussing, and that is, like, who should be in charge. That's the thing that we've been discussing here. And for me, it was important to note when I started doing research about the bylaws and I spoke to a number of the major framers of the new bylaw, of the present bylaws, the current bylaws, which were the new bylaws in early, the early 21st century. And they almost uniformly said that when we wrote these bylaws, we were idealistic and we thought that this would be the solution to Pacifica's problems, that, which at that time they thought were the national board, which was trying to become a self-selecting board. And they created these bylaws so that the local station boards and the national boards had to work together. And almost universally, the people who wrote the bylaws echoed what Carol Spooner, who was maybe the major drafter of the bylaws, said, is that they idealistically thought that these bylaws were going to solve the problems, but that within several years, they all regretted putting these bylaws into place. And they were not written on high. They were written by people, and they need to be revised so that the network can survive. And I also, I just want to quote from from our one of our auditors, the 2019 auditors, Rogers and Company, said that, as has been communicated by the predecessor independent auditors, we also agree it would be beneficial for the foundation to review its bylaws and consider any revisions to simplify them and encourage more productive meetings. Goes on to say, it appears that the foundation and its several stations would benefit from changes designed to achieve a more productive governance process. We believe that all divisions should restructure their boards with fewer members, which would hopefully reduce result in more effective governance. Bylaws should be rewritten to be more effective and restrict impediments to efficient board actions and procedures. The current process lends itself to protracted and unproductive discourse between participants. And CPB said basically the same thing. So this is, so this movement to restructure the bylaws is not new. If we continue in the present vein, these unproductive meetings and are going to literally drive Pacifica into the ground, and we can't,
That's already happened. It's in the ground. Here's what's working. This is working. The affiliates, it was such a breath of fresh air to get involved in the affiliates, because affiliates are actually doing things and making connections. And I think AudioPort is fantastic. And what is his name? Otis and David with what they're making great contributions to my station. And I'm just I don't know why back in the 60s and 70s Pacifica seemed to be just on top of just at the cutting edge of American media, and is just now swirling down the drain. Yes, it's a matter of people. Yes, it's a matter of organization, but it's also, there's the vision isn't there. I think Pacifica should have moved into being media, progressive media, but it's just been holding on to the FM model, which is viable, but is not on the cutting edge, and doesn't embrace, I think, the entirety of where Pacifica should be heading. It should be a vision of media that connects people, that brings the message of Pacifica such as I think it traditionally was, and we're just falling behind. I think somebody you should invite, Ursula, to speak to this group would be Matthew Lazar. Matthew Lazar, the historian of Pacifica, can answer these questions, I think, pretty well.
But again, we're not interested in the history, we're interested in the future. And
He
Dan, I
is-
still haven't seen, and Louis, I still haven't seen.
That glib
What is-
dismissal of
what does
Matthew
that look
Lazar
like?
shows that you have no idea what you're talking about. That's
What-
Matthew Lazar can put everything in perspective.
I'm trying to understand what you, Jan, are proposing that you will do in the future with, say, KPFA, where Louis feels like there's a problem. What is?
Okay.
I'm going to be taking off.
I
Thank
just want to
you.
understand what are the steps that the new board is going to
Okay.
take to make the
Well-
stations more effective, more productive, more economically viable, whatever it might be.
Well, first of all, again, I go back to having a professional radio executive be involved. That's the very first thing, because
Also with the.
wait a minute, excuse me, but let me finish, okay? So that's the very first thing, because, but as Louis mentioned, there are many things that Pacifica needs to do to become into the 21st century. For instance, we do have a Facebook page, but we're not actively sending things out. We're not using Instagram. We're not using any of the social media. And there's a number of social media things that my daughter uses that I don't remember the names of, but we should have a website that is a news site that people go to, that people from on staff are writing, that people, like they go to Huffington Post, they go to.
Sure, it's a great idea, but how is it going to happen? What are your plans?
Going to happen.
I mean, you've been on the board almost 20 years.
How's it going to happen?
Mhm.
You hire people, you energize people, you get people involved in doing that. You expand your vision into the 21st century and you start doing it. We have podcasts now, but we're not putting it out there. We have no PR. I mean, the fact is that we have many people who have volunteered to be involved in New Day have skills that will hopefully be used in Pacifica to bring us into the 21st century, which will bring in more listeners, that will bring in more
I don't
money,
see why you need to
more
do
programming.
bylaws just to have a social media campaign. So I'm wanting to know.
Well, my dear, the problem
I'm
is,
wanting to know specifically about Luis's situation. He thinks KPFA is too open doors. What do you envision that the new bylaws would do to fix that situation? I just want to know specifically. I want to see specifically what you're going to do, not just say the old stuff was bad, we're going to do something better. I want to know specifically, how are you going to deal with that?
well, first of all, we're talking micromanagement here, which the national board is not going to be in micromanagement. But
okay, so you're not going to be hiring the general manager, or you are going to be hiring the general manager? The executive director will decide that? The national board?
The executive director will be deciding that, because the executive director knows what qualifications are needed for, to be a station manager.
And you don't think that the local boards know that?
I absolutely agree that the local boards do not know that. No, they don't know. They don't even, let me just give you a perfect example. And when we were both evaluating an executive director, and when we were writing the job description for a station manager, one of the things that I thought was very important to put in there was that this person should be have experience and be able to create esprit de corps or team spirit and a team feeling at the station. And we had a committee from our local station board. I've been on many of these boards, and I proposed that be one of the things. And somebody says, "Oh, we're not creating, we don't want we don't want a social club, we want a radio station. So they knocked that out. They knocked out any discussion about creating a work environment that bolstered a team spirit, a feeling of camaraderie or whatever. And to me, that is the perfect example of people not knowing what they're doing when they're doing a search. Now, you may think, oh, well, we don't need to have a team spirit at a radio station, but everything that I've ever read, my experience as an employer, my experience in various organizations, that is an extremely important item. But when you have a bunch of people who don't know, who don't know very much about, some people do, some people don't. They don't know about what it takes to run a radio station. They know nothing about running a radio station more than turning on the dial. Some of them know.
You could just ask for more qualifications in that case. The board could ask for more
But
qualifications.
that our bylaws are clear.
So
All
do
you
the
have
local
to do is
stations
run.
understand, do the local stations understand that if this goes through, they will not be choosing their general managers, that the general managers will now be chosen by the national board?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I mean, that's part of the part of the concept is that it's going to be run like a normal nonprofit. And, where you have a chain of command that's clear, and that people know who their supervisors are, and they don't have 25 supervisors.
And they lose control
Heather,
of their local.
did you have one more question, or were you not raising your hand?
Well, I was, I just didn't know
Okay,
how
so
much to
let's
get.
do
No,
let's do
I will,
one more.
I will say, oh, okay.
Let's do one more question from Heather, and then we'll finish up.
Oh, thank you. Well, I do have issues with a national board making a decision on what's happening in local stations, because how on earth would they be familiar, Jan, with the culture, with the community, with the infrastructure altogether? That does not make sense. That concerns me. That makes no sense to me.
Well, of course, we have the present situation where the national board is deciding who to hire and fire. I thought that was what you were going to say, but the national board will have representatives from each of the local station area, and will have so that idea that the national board is somehow some magical, entity estranged from everybody is not actually accurate, because you're going to have people from every station board and every and staff all represented on the national board. This is not some national board that's sitting in, Washington, D.C., that is all selected from people who live in Washington, D.C. or California or wherever. These people are going to be from each of the stations, and they will be able to bring those sensibilities to the stations. And in fact, the executive director, I'm sure that there will be ways of communicating and discussing, what the needs of the community are as part of when you're hiring, just like any organization. If they're hiring somebody to be in Los Angeles, they're going to be looking to the needs of Los Angeles. Or if they were, hiring for Houston or for Silver Springs or for wherever, they're not just blindly, looking for it. They're going to be, observe, caring about what the station needs, what the culture there needs, but it'll be a professional who's going to be looking at it and making those decisions.
Well, I just need to say that, well, thank you for your explanation, but I have far more confidence in the local community itself making those decisions than a national board making them for them. So anyway, I just wanted to say that too.
Yeah, no, I think that, that's it's a legitimate concern. It's the, and I don't think I think it's a legitimate concern, but I don't think that, but what has happened in the past is that we've, at KPFK, we, went through that process and we hired somebody who had, as general manager, who had no radio experience at all, because she was, liked by a bunch of people. And, she immediately, took off, eliminated important programmers who had followings, who brought listenership and uh, and thus support from those listeners, and just bounce them off the air. And there was, enough of a brouhaha that that those people were put back on the air, and it took 3 years to build their audience back up. And I don't think that people should own, their slot on the station. And we do need to have newer voices. We need younger voices at every level at Pacifica. But it needs to be done, changes need to be done by somebody or people who know what they're doing, and they just don't, put people in who are maybe nice, maybe well-intentioned, but don't know how to run a radio station. And that's what we need. And
Thank
we
you,
need
Jan.
Pacifica. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And I just want to say one thing. One of the things that has been paralyzing at Pacifica, and I mean, there's a lot of devil in the details in what, everybody's trying to unpack here. Pacifica is a very, very difficult organization to manage, because you're really trying to bring together such a huge diversity of geographic locations and types of people. And so a lot of it is devils in the detail type of thing, and can be quite counterintuitive. And I think that's what makes it even harder to discuss. But I do want to say one thing that, I've experienced consistently, is that one of the things that's made it more difficult than usual to figure this out is kind of people ascribing ill intentions to each other, and kind of basing their thoughts on that. And I do think that, everybody here on this Zoom is basically coming from a place of good intentions, trying to unpack what is an extremely difficult situation. And, in my opinion, and this is just my perspective, when we had the Pacifica struggle in 2001 and 2002, when we started with the new bylaws, in many ways, we were starting a brand new organization, because the Pacifica that we all remember and idealized from the past was also not an easy organization, but that organization in many ways was destroyed. And really what we've been doing for the last 20 years is trying to organization build, and it's very, very difficult. So that's just kind of what I've experienced in this. And so, I thank everybody on this Zoom for trying to struggle this out. I think everybody is, really coming in a weird sort of way from the same place, but it's very, very difficult to understand how to sort this out. And so thank you, Jan, for, sharing your thoughts, and thank you everybody for kind of struggling it out. And I guess this will be continued, and this is going to be posted on our website. This is a recorded meeting, so it can be can looked at again. And Devine wrote to me and asked me where she could see the current bylaws. If you go to Pacifica, I don't know if pacificanetwork.org, do we have the bylaws on our website, Stephanie? If we don't,
I don't know, but I think I did see, I think I did come across them.
yeah, if we don't, we should probably
Jan, and
put
I'll
it in
send
there.
you.
But,
Yeah,
but
and
definitely at pacifica.org.
Yeah, and you can go to newdaypacifica.org, and if you do put them on your website, do put a link to newdaypacifica.org, because we then, part of the website has a special section that it is, and you could even put the link to that section that goes into detail about what the bylaws do and don't do. And it's called something like Details of the Bylaws. And that explains them. There's also the whole bylaws that you can read, but that will for sure put you to sleep before you even get to any changes. So I
Yeah.
think it's a lot easier to look at the details. So,
Okay. Well,
and
thanks.
thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for taking
Yeah.
the time to talk to us. It means a lot.
Yeah. And let me really emphasize that I don't think that as much as people squabble and fight within Pacifica, I don't think that it's not the personalities or the good intentions of people that have created these problems. It's the structure, and we can't undo the structure without literally undoing it, no matter how hard we try. So thank you.
Thank you, Jan.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, Jan, and thank you everyone so much for your questions and comments. And we'll continue next week, and we'll hear the other half of the
Okay.
story. And have a good rest of your day, everybody.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephanie. Stephanie, I'll send you the recording that I have.
Excellent. Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
How are you
Okay.
gonna do that? Are you gonna do that from like a WeTransfer or a?
Oh, yeah. I don't know. I don't know how we're going to do that.
I mean, you could try and upload it to the Google Drive and see how that goes.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I can do that. I can.
Okay.
To the Google Drive.
All right, let's do
Yeah.
that.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you so
Later.
much.
Oh, my
And Trudy, thank you for, asking for this. It's really great. And I am really serious. We just absolutely adore you at WZRD.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much.
I'm not just saying that. WZRD is such a great place.
Oh, thank you. Yes, I just want to mention WeTransfer goes really, really quickly if you have an account. It's almost like instantaneous.
Oh,
Google
wow.
Drive is
Okay.
very
I'll look
slow.
into it.
Yeah, it
Google
might be
Drive-
worth setting up an account for that.
And
That's
it does it
a lot
for
of people send me files.
It does video?
Yes, it does. And WeTransfer doesn't have a space. It was a typo. WeTransfer is all one word.
Okay, thank you.
WeTransfer.com. You're welcome.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye.
Alrighty, sorry I got booted off. My mom was cleaning behind the TV and she knocked me off the internet. So anyway, side story. Okay, I'll talk to you soon.
Okay, bye-bye. Bye-bye, Bruce. Bye-bye, Jan.
Bye bye,
Bye-bye.
everybody.